Hello there, interwebs. I am the Beckloff, and this is, of course, my podcast. Didn't have a podcast last week. I just didn't feel like it. Honestly, I had a lot of stuff going on, and just didn't have the time nor the energy for it last week. But hey, I did a bunch of little YouTube videos, but so I don't think any of my fans can complain. All 9 of them. So, first thing I want to talk about this week is the stuff going on with Zoe Quinn. And for those of you who say, who the fuck is Zoe Quinn? Well, that's good that you say that. If only we all said that. But Zoe Quinn is, she's the person behind that game, Depression Quest, that you might have heard of. It's a text-based game about having depression. Just in case you thought Gone Home was too much like an actual game. And she's obviously one of these social justice warrior feminist twats. She's one of these parasites on geek culture. She's not really in any kind of real geek culture. She's just here to push her bullshit, idiotic agenda. And no doubt make some ducats. So, it broke, I guess, this weekend. A friend of mine who's in the game industry showed this to me. Um, Her ex now has, and he's documented stuff in detail and all. He's claiming that she cheated on him with 5 other guys, and the nickname flying around now is Zoe Quinn, Five Guys Burgers and Fries. Normally, I wouldn't want to talk about this kind of stuff because I mean, it's just I don't want to get into people's love lives for the most part. It's just everyone's love life is messy. You know, everyone's been made a fool of, and everyone's acted a fool in that area of their life. And if you haven't, you really haven't lived. But when you're dealing with one of these sanctimonious asswipes, you know, and that's what these feminists are anymore. They're all, you know, half of them want to outlaw porn, and you know, unless you have express written consent in a fucking contract, you know, you can be accused of raping a girl and you have sex. These are fucking Puritans. They're just left wing versions of Puritans. They're just left wing versions of those churchianity do-gooder cocksuckers. You know, your James Dobsons and whatnot. They're just left wing versions of that. So when you're dealing with somebody like that, yeah, there's hypocrisy factors in, and you're just dealing with someone where shit couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, as the saying goes. So yeah, Zoe Quinn apparently, and this is really blowing up in her face. This is exposing some. She's trying to ignore it, but it's getting harder and harder for her. And this just blew up this weekend, from what I understand. I'll put a link down below to the page set up by her ex, and I mean you can judge for yourself. I obviously wasn't one of the 5 guys, so I can't talk about it and all. But I think that we're gonna see this is probably a pattern. If I had to hazard a guess, and based on what I'm hearing from some people, some rumors and whatnot that I can't confirm, I would hazard a guess that this is actually a major pattern. That a lot of these feminist twats, they're banging their way to prominence, if not flirting and at least kind of using their sexuality a little bit. Which some of that's obvious. I mean, I've made the jokes before that there's 2 reasons Lindsay Ellis has her job, and they're right in front of her. But there might be a little bit more going on about that. If you look at it from strictly a marketing standpoint, Zoe Quinn was that was quite the interesting strategy, if this is indeed what happened, because she was sleeping with bosses and I guess other people in the industry. I think critics or something. I'd have to look up the page again. It's really long-winded. The guy had this poor schmuck had his heart ripped out. So obviously it just goes on and on. But if you think about it from strictly a marketing standpoint for these girls, it would make a lot of sense. You're trying to get your piece of shit game out there that no one has any business playing to begin with. No one would want to play. So maybe you go over to one of these major game sites and hit one of the game critics. One of these fat, thirsty nerds over there. Maybe you throw a little bit of ass his way and see if he doesn't just write you up the nicest review you've ever seen. And then maybe you do that once or twice. Maybe then a bunch of other people follow suit because those guys are influential. I don't know. I don't know. Just a theory on my part. I'm seeing a couple of pieces fall into place here, and I'm guessing on what the whole picture is. But I suspect it's just like the religious right guys in the 80s. Again, to use that parallel. And I said in a video before that parallel isn't perfect for the simple fact that the religious right guys, they at least fought with some semblance of honor. A guy like Jack Thompson just openly attacked the video game industry, whereas Anita Sarkeesian sneaks in a Trojan horse pretending to be one of us. When she's not. That's documented, that's on film. She said she's not a gamer. But anyways, getting back to it, to go back to the parallel, imperfect though it may be, back in the 80s when the religious right was at its peak power, scandals broke left and right of these guys. And that really toppled their little tower. So that may be how we have to do it on this one. I think with a little bit of looking into it, a little bit of digging, people are going to find some really... just look at what it was uncovered with Anita. Just look at what just a little bit of digging uncovered with Anita. Guys like Jordan Owen and Mundane Matt and shit like that. Look at just what they found out on Anita. Alright, they really... And I know Anita's still a thing, but you keep that up, alright? Had guys like Jordan Owen and not done that kind of stuff, like Thunderfoot did it, but really investigated the past and shown just the scamming of it all. Who knows what kind of influence she might have? How much more seriously she might have been taken if there was no opposition beyond just a handful of trolls that can be easily exploited by the scumskeezians to make themselves look like victims. So I think that's how you cut this cancer out of geek culture. You expose them for the opportunists they are. If even half of what was written in this article about Zoe Quinn is true, then she's an outright sociopath. But frankly, I suspected that beforehand, so maybe that's just confirmational bias on my part. I don't know. I'll put the link to the article in the description. Check it out. Decide for yourselves what you think. But it's definitely interesting. It's definitely interesting. And while I'm not one to take glee in someone's love life blowing up in their face, this is an exception. So, like I said, check it out if you get a chance. Another little thing I'd like to talk about. Saw this article pop up on my Facebook feed recently. Feel good story of the year recently. Really. Obviously, if you pay attention, you know that cops are fucking out of control. And, which shouldn't surprise anybody with half a brain. I don't get these conservatives that are like, I don't trust the government, but I trust the cops. The cops are the fucking government, alright? They're just an arm of the government. That's all they are. So if the government is corrupt and out of control, doesn't it make sense that police departments are going to end up being corrupt and out of control? And half these cops are just bullies with badges. That's all they are. And fucking cowards, too. And nowhere will you see how much of a coward they are than how much puppycide is committed by cops. They break into these houses, and that's what it is, break-ins, because half the time it's the wrong fucking house, or they had no real justification for it. There's a dog barking that's on a leash, maybe even in a cage, and they fucking shoot it, because they're afraid of the dog. Well, maybe the dog was just barking because dogs can sense evil. I don't know. But half the time, it's just some poor little dog gets shot by... It's rampant. Google puppycide and police sometime. It's fucking out of control. Well, feel-good story of the year. Um, what the hell? Let me look it up here. What's it say? A Riverside County Sheriff's Deputy. Where's it? Riverside County. What state? Does it even say? Shit. I don't see the state on here. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You could probably Google it. Point is, this deputy was out to serve a warrant when a dog began to approach him and act aggressively. So, according to the spokesman, the deputy was serving court documents to the resident. Blah blah blah. When a dog came at him. Oh no. Um, the cop tried to shoot the dog. Pulled out his gun. Tried to shoot the dog. But in just delicious, delightful karma, this pig shot himself instead. Outstanding. Personally, it doesn't say where he shot himself. I personally hope he shot his dick off. That is my prayer to the heavens right here. Cause fucking pig. Who shoots a fucking dog? It's a dog. It's a fucking dog. What are you afraid of? I am not afraid of any fucking dog. I've never been in my life, and I don't get people who are. Like, I get if you're like walking around in like shorts and a t-shirt, but cops aren't. Cops got these big, thick uniforms and all shit on. And if you train someone how to fucking fight a dog is no threat to you. All right. This sounds like hyperbole, but it's not. A man who's in decent shape and is wearing like thick, padded clothing could probably, if he knows what he's doing, easily take out a fucking wolf pack. All right. Dogs are not really good fighters. All right. As soon as one of them grabs, keep your face shielded with your arms. As soon as one of them grabs your arm, push in. That's all you gotta do is push in. Everyone makes a mistake of pulling out. The dog rips parts of you. No, push in. The dog gag. He lets go. Punch a dog in the nose if you can. Hit him in the. It's so easy to fucking fight him if you know what you're doing. And I don't even know that much. I only know like a little bit. Just from having dogs my whole life. Just playing around with a dog, wrestling dogs. And just from little bits of watching like Discovery Channel or shows on dogs, it's fucking easy. You could easily train somebody to handle a dog. But no, these pigs just shoot it. They just fucking shoot it. And you know what? It's a fucking half the time it's like a little chihuahua or some shit. What the fuck was it gonna do to you? No, these pigs are just they're fucking cowards and bullies. Alright? They're fucking cowards and bullies. There's this one video of this guy who got fucking arrested. I don't even think he was doing anything wrong. I think he was just filming the cops, which they fucking hate. Which that alone ought to show you the character. And the dog jumped out of the car, and it was nowhere near the cop. It was behind its master barking at the cop because the cop was fucking up its master. The cop shot it and just let it lay there suffering with a bullet in it. Didn't even have the good sense to put it out of its misery. No, the fucking cop just shot it once and like laughed as it's sitting there twitching. Fucking pigs. Fucking damn pigs. But I digress. Point is, in this particular time, the good Lord himself stepped in and said, "Not this time, pig." And it's beautiful. It is so beautiful. I couldn't. I like I said. Feel good story of the year. Cop tries to shoot some dog. Pig ends up shooting himself. It's fucking great. I loved it. Now speaking of cops, Eric Holder, technically I guess the top cop in the country, head of the Justice Department, which I guess I'm at what point do we have to put the word justice in quotation marks? I mean, for fuck's sake, when you make Janet Reno seem like the good old days, Eric, you're really... Eric Holder is just about as big a piece of... He's probably worse than fucking Obama. I mean, there's nothing good about Eric Holder, who he is or what he does. But Eric Holder has filed suit against the state police here in my home state, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And because their physical standards are too high, and he doesn't feel that enough women are able to meet the physical standards. And I'm sure, look, time for some basic biology. I'm sorry, you social justice warriors who want to, you feminists and all. Maybe you want to cover your ears because it's going to be offensive to you. But I'm sorry, I'm not God. I'm not nature. I didn't make the rules here. By and large, men are stronger than women. Period. It's just how it is. All right, men are physically stronger than women. It doesn't mean that every man is stronger than every woman. It's not stupid shit like that. It doesn't mean there's not oddballs and statistical anomalies and what have you. But as a general rule, Mother Nature has deemed that the male of our species is stronger than the female when it comes to physical strength, particularly upper body strength. It's just how it is. So pretty much any kind of physical standards on a job like this, more women are going to fail than men, generally speaking, all things being equal. That's just how it is. And I can't stand the idea of lowering the standards or say, in the military, at least in the U.S., there's separate physical standards for women, and that's fucking ridiculous. Look, you can argue about women in the military, whether it's a good idea, the psychological aspects and aspects of how it affects just the day-to-day operations of the military to have it co-ed. I'm not really an expert. I don't really know. I can't say one way or the other. But to me, it shouldn't even be a discussion until the women meet the same physical standards as the men. Then we can even talk about those other issues. But it's a moot point if they don't. And the reason they don't is because they know physical standards in the military are pretty rough. And most of these women would wash out right off the get-go if they raised them to the level of men. At least the lion's share. If not, I would guess the majority. You'd see a vast reduction in the number of women in the military, that's for sure. And they don't want to admit that. These social engineers on the left, what have you. And now they want to do it to the police department. I don't know if they would lower the standards all around or just lower them for women. I don't know what they would do if Eric Holder was successful. The PA Police Department is fighting it. And they have a significant number of women that pass. There's not a shortage of female cops or something like that. There's a significant number of them to begin with. But that's not good enough for Eric Holder. Now here's the thing that I take away that a lot of people don't. A lot of people have commented on this. Oh, he's going to ruin the police department, all this crap. But my take, and I feel a little bit like this on the military, my take is you go right the fuck ahead and ruin the police department. You go right the fuck ahead and lower the physical standard. Hell, drop the physical standards altogether. I don't give a shit. Because this is no longer a country where I really trust the police, or even, frankly, a lot of the military. This is a country where I genuinely worry about seeing in my lifetime the elected officials turning the military openly on segments of the populace, despite that being entirely unconstitutional. And I genuinely worry about the militarization of the police departments in this country. I genuinely worry about the quality, not physical standards, but the quality of character of the men and women behind the badges. I don't trust the cops. I don't like the cops. People say, "Oh, Beckloff, you hate the cops. Who are you going to call at 3 in the morning when someone kicks your door in?" Well, it's probably going to be the cops kicking my door in because they had the wrong house or some shit like that. Who am I supposed to call then? I don't trust these pigs. I don't. So you know what? You know what, Obama? You know what, Eric Holder? And you know what? This is another thing I always like to say. It is probably the grace of God that Obama and his fucking ilk, his fucking henchmen, are as incompetent as they are. Because we could have gotten Darth Vader, but instead we got Dark Helmet from Spaceballs. It's the grace of God he's as much of a buffoon as he is. So you know what, Obama? If you and your fucking ilk have dreams of one day really turning the cops on the people, I mean, really turning maybe even the military on the people, then you go right the fuck ahead and gut it beforehand. Because maybe then we stand a chance. If there was going to be a SWAT team kicking my door in, and, I got to hey, maybe at least if they're all a bunch of fat asses, then maybe at least I get to take a few of them out before they put a bullet in my back. Just a thought on my part. But the rate these police departments are, I'm all for weakening them. You go right ahead. Drop the physical standards altogether, Holder. I don't give a shit. Go right the fuck ahead. Just go right the fuck ahead. I say, I'm all for it. No physical standards for the police departments anymore. That's what I say. Alright, so the other thing in the news this week is obviously Robin Williams passed away. Apparently killed himself. I think that's been confirmed now. I know it was right away everyone suspected it because it was asphyxiation and nobody would. But yeah, apparently killed himself. Which, I think he was a genuinely funny man. I can't say I enjoyed everything he did by any stretch. And I can't say some of his shtick never got old with me. But he was a genuinely funny man. Did some genuinely good things. And by all accounts, a pretty decent guy. But obviously tormented by some demons. Which is quite common to the comedians. Comedians are generally very depressed people. The great comedians are tormented inside, and many times just outright dicks and assholes. And you almost have to be. It's funny, like, a lot of the horror guys, a lot of the, like, great horror movie actors, like Robert Englund, and Doug Bradley, and going back, like, Vincent Price and shit, a lot of them guys are just the most nicest, kindest people you could possibly meet. I think I remember hearing, like, Vincent Price, like, taught Sunday school at his church or some shit like that. I can't even, I'd have to look that up, but I remember hearing that about one of the horror movie icons. But those are just generally the nicest, kindest people you could meet. Whereas the comedians are often dicks, if not very depressed and self-loathing. And it's just interesting. And I guess it's because comedy comes from pain. I often suspect that's part of the reason you don't see any really great Christian comedians. Not that Christians don't have pain, but it's almost like churchianity culture won't allow any kind of people who openly admit they're in pain, openly admit that they struggle with these demons, because, churchianity culture's got to be all Ned Flanders'd up. So those Christians that do have those kind of demons, and yes, a man of faith can still struggle with those kind of demons, perhaps even more so. Churchianity's not going to let those guys rise to the top. Churchianity culture, we want, because they're not going to be able to do those bland bullshit, Mom's Night Out, God's Not Dead movies that no one wants to see, other than churches that buy up blocks of tickets. But the other thing, a couple other things about this story we're talking about. Zelda Williams, Robin's daughter, named after the video game princess. She's been big into geek culture on the internets here these last few years. She's been big on Twitter and I think it's Facebook, what have you. Well, she left Twitter here recently because she had enough of all the bullshit that she was facing. Obviously, most people sending tweets at her like, "Oh, I'm sorry, your dad's work meant a lot to me over the years," that kind of stuff. But obviously there's going to be dicks. There's going to be assholes. And a few of them went pretty far, photoshopping like pictures of him in the morgue and shit. Just really heinous, evil shit. But that is the internet. And Zelda said, "Look, I've had enough of this for a while. I'm just going to walk away from social media for a while," which I think was a pretty decent way to handle it. I'm of two mindsets on that sort of thing. I've always been in the mindset that if you want fame, if you want the limelight, and let's face facts, while it was kind of thrust upon her by birth, Zelda never really shied away from it. Particularly on the internets and geek culture and all. But if you want that kind of limelight, you got to take the downside to it. People complaining about the downside of fame to me has always struck me as a rich man complaining that his wallet is so heavy it hurts his back. It's always irritated me. That being said, I think she's handling this quite well. She's not having a hissy fit. She's not playing the victim. She's even said, like, maybe I should have been stronger and just been able to take this. And she just walked away. Said, "Look, I'm just disengaging for a while." perfectly fine, perfectly acceptable. I couldn't find a bit of a fault in it. And again, when I first heard like the story and I hadn't heard all the details, at first my thought was, oh, geez, another fucking whiny person complaining about, oh, I'm so famous, oh, the horror. But no, that doesn't seem to be the case this time. She genuinely just, and people were assholes. Now, people are assholes that you got to deal with. You know, we don't live in should-land, but I think she's handling it quite well. And I think everyone that was sending her that ignorant shit is fucking dumb ass. Is a piece of shit. Of course, the social justice warriors have latched on to this story. First of all, the feminists latch onto it to say that poor Zelda was the victim of misogynistic trolling. No, she fucking wasn't. She was the victim of trolling. None of this was attacking her for being a woman. None of this. But the other thing is the social justice warriors latched on to calling Mrs. Doubtfire transphobic. And no, you fucking pieces of shit. The body's not even cold yet, alright? You fucking scumbags. These SJWs, they have... as I said, I compare them to the religious right, and it's like segments of them are just becoming obscene. They're becoming the secular left version of that Westboro Baptist Church cocksuckers, alright? That's all they're becoming. And they're just trash. They're just trash. So, getting away from that for a while. Talking about little lighter topics that I've been talking about here. I just got into the Bomberman game series here recently. As you know, if you listen to my stuff, I'm big on the retro games. And a while back I played, and I reviewed it on my blog, a game for the Game Boy called Wario Blast, featuring Bomberman. Now, Wario Blast is essentially a Bomberman game. You either play as Wario or Bomberman versus the other character. I guess the story of the game is Wario has found his way to Bomberman's world, and of course wants to steal all the gold and shit, because Wario's a dick like that. And Bomberman wants to stop him. So it's just typical Bomberman stuff. You're in that overhead view of the maze, you're laying down bombs, destroying blocks, trying to blow up your enemy, getting power-ups, that sort of thing. It's not a great game. It was really... I guess I had played Bomberman a bit as a kid at like friends' houses and all, but it was never something I got into. It was the first game I really got into on it. It definitely has its flaws now that I've played other Bomberman games. For example, you get the power-ups, obviously. You get the bomb power-up, which allows you to lay multiple bombs at a time. The power-up to, expand the blast radius. The standard Bomberman power-ups. But the power-ups all go away after the first level. So you rarely get a chance to use any of the power-ups to enjoy them. That's a bit of a flaw. And it's very repetitive, even for a Bomberman game. But it's not bad. I mean, it introduced me to the series and got me interested into it, so I guess it did what it meant to do. I was fascinated by... I mean, Nintendo doesn't own Bomberman. Hudson does. So it was fascinating that they would loan this character out, their flagship character, really, to a game where, despite it being a Bomberman game in every way, shape, or form, gameplay-wise, and all, it's Wario is the quote-unquote star of the game. So I thought that was a bit odd. Would have loved to be a fly on the wall here in Nintendo and Hudson hash that deal out. But again, I guess Hudson made out like a bandit on this one, at least in my regard, because got me into the game. Of course, I'm buying 20 to 30-year-old games, so Hudson's not getting any money from me. But whatever. If I'd have bought it new, it might have gotten me into the series, so I guess it serves its purpose, or served its purpose. But anyways, like I said, got into the Bomberman games. Good games. Been playing Super Bomberman on the Super Nintendo. Good stuff. Enjoying it. But as I was looking for it, just Googling, like, maybe find some cool DeviantArt on it, that kind of stuff. You can always find cool stuff on characters like this. You go on DeviantArt. And I'm Googling Bomber, and this thing kept coming up. It was this fucking Xbox game. It was Bomberman Act Zero, but it doesn't look like Bomberman at all. It's like this realistic style looking robot thing on the cover. And some of you might be laughing because you already know about Bomberman Act Zero. I did not. I think I vaguely remember hearing about it when it was new. But again, I was only barely aware of Bomberman, so it never really was something to pay attention to. Bomberman Act Zero on the Xbox 360 is considered by many to be the worst Xbox 360 game of all time. And I don't think that's true. Now, granted, I don't claim to have played even half, probably not even a quarter of the Xbox 360 games in existence. But I can't imagine this one is the worst. In fact, didn't Ride to Hell Retribution come out on the Xbox 360? Maybe I'm wrong on that, but the last year's that game that was apparently fucking so broken it was barely playable. That's gotta be worse. But maybe they mean exclusive to Xbox 360, because I think this is only on the 360. I don't know. Point is, I doubt it's that bad, because I have played it a little bit. I just got it in the mail yesterday. Ordered it online, just got it. Just played it last night a little bit. And essentially this game is Bomberman. But it's reimagined. It's not this cute little cartoon robot anymore. It's this, looks nothing like it, more realistic style robot. The gameplay is essentially identical. Overhead view of the maze generally. The camera can switch around, but you can pretty much get it to just be an overhead view. You get the standard power-ups, lay multiple bombs, increase blast radius, speed yourself up. They don't have the little cartoon icons anymore. Instead of being a little bomb, it's just kind of an explosion icon. Or instead of being like the roller skates to move faster, it's like a forward arrow or something. Because that's the thing. This game sucks every bit of the cuteness and the humor out of it. To where it's so unremarkable and unimaginative. I mean, there's like when you first start out, you can pick a male or female style robot, and you can pick the color. So there's some limited customization, and I do like character customization. That's always fun. But again, you're just picking male or female or the color. But again, at least there's a limit. The graphics are really weak for a 360. Looks like it could have just been the original Xbox. But it was very early 360. This came out in like 06. So I guess it's somewhat forgivable. What else? The sound is it's okay. I mean, when you defeat an enemy, it sounds like a Wilhelm scream or whatever they call that. The announcer, I think it's supposed to sound robotic, but it sounds like a really early version of Siri, like "you win," it's just a girl voice saying it. I mean, the gameplay is exactly like Bomberman in so many ways, like basic Bomberman. You can move past the bomb though. If like you lay a bomb, you can walk right through it because it doesn't even look like a bomb. It looks like this like fucking energy sphere. Apparently there's 99 levels and you only get like one life. You don't die automatically when you get hit by a blast. I guess you get like a health bar or something. There's no way in hell I'm gonna beat all 99 levels because first of all that sounds monotonous as fuck. And you only get one life. No save points, nothing like that. There's no way in hell I'm gonna get through it. It's just not gonna happen. But again, sucked all the cartoon joy out of it. And in some ways, now mind you, I guess for a review of this game, and I'll probably write a full review on my blog, I really don't think this is the worst Xbox 360 game in existence. I can't imagine it is. Is it a good game? No. Is it a bad game? Yes, but only in the sense that there's not a lot of there. As I said, this is almost identical gameplay on the Xbox 360 to a very early game on the NES. I mean, this is Bomberman 1 level shit. This isn't any of the additional stuff that would come into later games. This is Bomberman 1 reimagined. It's your basic Bomberman stuff. So there's just not a lot of there when it comes to an actual game. Is it bad? not. I can't even really say it's bad. I've played games where I played it for like 10 minutes and said, fuck this game, and walked away mad at how bad it was. This was just unremarkable, is the best way to put it. It had no soul. It took all the soul out of it. I mean, if you see it for, it can be amusing enough, particularly, but I wouldn't recommend it. I think part of the reason everyone said it was the worst game ever is it took a classic franchise and sucked the life out of it. Sucked all the joy, all the creativity out of it. So is it a bad game? Yeah. Is it as bad as everyone says? Not really. But it is bad. It's fascinatingly bad, though, because in many ways it represents a lot of problems with the AAA game industry and I realize this is a 7-year-old game, but it persisted to this day in the modern era. There's no soul to Bomberman Act Zero. There's no creativity to it. There's no heart. There's nothing engaging about it. Bomberman was simple gameplay, and it's gotten a little bit more advanced, but it's relatively simple gameplay. But it's also a simple story. It's this cute little cartoon robot, and you try and translate that to something quote-unquote realistic and gritty and dark, you get the same problem you had with the Super Mario Brothers live-action movie. That story doesn't belong in that kind of a tone. But again, it comes back to a lot of problems with the video game industry, a lot of problems I have with modern games. So many modern games, I can't tell them apart. I don't feel any kind of creativity, I don't feel any kind of heart. It's just another FPS with, a palette of brown and gray. And I realize a lot of people would say, oh, that's a stupid complaint. Because, classic games had a lot of repetitiveness, a lot of rip-off crap. I mean, obviously Sonic and Mario were popular, so people farted out clones that, what was it, Awesome Possum versus Dr. Machino. I mean, obviously crap like that existed. Still, I feel like there was so much more heart in those early games than a lot of these modern games. And it's not to say that modern games are all bad. Certainly there's a lot of creativity goes into a lot of these. Saints Row 2 is one of my favorite games. That came out just a couple years ago. Certainly, a lot of these games, just because you're realistic and you're grim and gritty, doesn't mean you're devoid of creativity. But I do think it's worse. I do think the copycat bullshit is worse. And I do think there's major, major, major problems in the game industry right now. And Bomberman Act Zero exemplifies that. And that's why I love Nintendo, because Nintendo fights against that. Nintendo is not trying to modernize its classic franchises. Nintendo is just being good old-fashioned family fun. And it's such a shame with Bomberman Act Zero. Hudson, I guess I can't really think of any Hudson games off the top of my head other than Milo's Secret Castle that's aside from Bomberman, which is, everyone's seen the Angry Video Game Nerd review of that. But Bomberman's a cool series. And Hudson loaned this out to Konami to make it. And Konami is a tremendous game maker. So there's no excuse for that kind of crap. But yeah, I think it exemplifies a lot of just the ways in which modern video games, especially at the AAA level, they don't have any heart anymore. It's become so Hollywood / Michael Bay style kind of crap. It's just overblown, over budget, grim and gritty explosions. And again, I'm not saying all modern games like that. That's just what it seems like to me. It seems like to me man, I would just rather get a good Mario game, for my Wii U than half of what's out on the PS4. It just seems like I'd rather tear into classic games anymore than a lot of these modern games. I'm not. And that's before you even take into account how badly the modern video game industry tries to fuck you as a consumer. I mean, look at the Xbox One debacle with DMR or DRM and all that kind of bullshit. They try to make sure you don't own a physical copy. They nickel and dime you with DLC. They try to bone you left and right. They try to bone you, and I don't know. To me, Bomberman Act Zero, you modernized Bomberman right there, and you turned it to shit. And I really think that kind of exemplifies what is wrong with the modern video game industry. Just no heart, no soul, none of that left. Alright, so try to end each podcast on a more positive note. And I guess I'll do that again today. Recently, as I said, I started playing the Bomberman games. Really good games, really solid. Super Bomberman on the NES, fantastic game if you're looking to get into retro games. If you get into NES, it's fantastic. Can be a bit pricey, but that's just a problem with any Super Nintendo games right now. By the way, if you are looking to get into classic games, and I mean get into actual owning the games, not emulator shit, and I guess I can understand the emulator if you because of your budget or whatever. But if you're looking to get into the games, the actual classic games, now's the time. Because speculators are getting in there, it's getting crowded, it's getting expensive. Get in there now, because it's only going to get worse in the next few years. I'm seeing N64 games creep up in price. I'm trying to get in the NES library. That's getting rough right now. And again, it's not that they're not hugely expensive. It's just not where it was a few years ago. A few years ago, I could go into one of these game stores, and I realized there was inflation and shit in the last few years. But I'd go into one of these game stores with $50 in my pocket, walk away with a handful of games. It's getting a lot more expensive. But Super Bomberman on the Super Nintendo, fantastic game. Definitely you should check it out. Just got Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze on the Wii U. Damn fun game. I mean, it's mostly your standard Donkey Kong Country Fare. Story in the game, for whatever that matters, is Donkey Kong's hanging out doing Donkey Kong stuff, and these invaders attack his island, and they're like penguin Vikings that are being led by this abominable snowman looking guy, and he blows on this big Viking ice horn that summons an ice dragon and freezes most of the island. And the first levels start kind of tropical and all, but I guess as you get deeper into the island, it's going to turn ice. I only got it like yesterday, so I played a little bit of it. It's fun though. In Donkey Kong Country classically you get Diddy Kong as your sidekick, and you switch back and forth with it. Now when you get Diddy Kong as your sidekick, he has like a ability. They all have like kind of a jump ability. You can get Diddy Kong or Cranky Kong, the old guy, or what the hell. The little blonde girl monkey that like is Diddy Kong's girlfriend. Shit, I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Anyways, you get those three. When you got Diddy Kong, he's got like a little jetpack, and he can kind of like, it really doesn't launch you up mostly, but it kind of lets you glide a little bit on your jump. Similarly, the little blonde girl can spin her ponytail like a helicopter, almost like Tails from Sonic, and she can boost you up a little bit. And Cranky Kong, like I guess he bounces on his cane. It's almost like what Scrooge McDuck did in the old Capcom DuckTales game. And he can get a bounce. I find his bounce a little difficult to maneuver, but I think it's just I haven't gotten used to it yet. I think it'll be easier. Like I just played it last night. I only played a handful of levels. Really fun so far though. Interesting that they're throwing the dynamic out of whack a little bit with different assist characters. Really fun so far. I like it a lot so far. So again, I just got into it, but tentatively so far, I would give a recommendation for it. And what was the other one I want to talk about? Let's see. The other one I just played, not really a positive recommendation. I'm just saying this isn't really worth checking out. Donkey Kong 3 on the NES. And I didn't even know Donkey Kong 3 existed till recently. I knew about Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. because I had the Donkey Kong Classics as a kid, which I recently rebought on my NES. Donkey Kong 3 is obviously the third in this. And you play as this guy who shoots like pesticides, bees, and Donkey Kong's knocking shit on you, and it's just not fun. I don't like it at all. The controls are, you can only shoot up. It's really difficult, but unlike Donkey Kong, it's not difficult in a way that feels fair. So yeah, I would pass on Donkey Kong 3. Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. though are classic games. If you're gonna get on the NES library, I would say hop in. I would say get Donkey Kong Classics. That's the one that has both of them. It's probably the cheapest way to get them both. It has really awesome cover art too. It's got like Mario hitting Donkey Kong with a hammer as he's in his hand. I always loved it as a kid. Really awesome cover art. Alright, so that's about it this week. Thanks for listening. As always, thanks for listening, and Beckloff out, I guess. Thanks.